All right, today we're diving into something that might just change how you see, well, everything about yourself. It's the work of a clinical psychologist, Dr. Michael Lukens. After spending more than 30 years in his practice, he's put together this incredible theory he calls the physics of emotioning. And honestly, it's a totally new blueprint for understanding what makes you, you. You ever feel like there's a tug-of-war going on inside your own head? One part of you is all responsible, saying I really should get this done, but then there's this other part, this other force, that just wants to sink into the couch and binge watch a series. It's that constant, frustrating back and forth, right? It can make you feel completely stuck, almost like you're at war with yourself. Well, according to Dr. Lukens, the reason we all feel that struggle is because most of us are running on this old, outdated blueprint. He's got a name for it, rational supremacy. And it's this idea that we've all kind of been fed our whole lives, right? That your logical thinking mind is the CEO and your feelings, well, they're just messy employees that you have to control to wrestle into submission with pure willpower. But here's the big, game-changing question. What if that entire model is just flat out wrong? What if trying to boss your feelings around is like trying to argue with gravity? I mean, think about it. That one question, that single what if, it cracks open the door to a completely different way of understanding who we are. Okay, so let's start building a new foundation from the ground up. And to do that, we have to start with a pretty radical idea about what's even real. The key isn't what's happening out there in the world. Nope, it's all about what's happening in here. And this idea, it pretty much flips our normal way of thinking completely upside down. Dr. Lukens argues that the only truth that actually matters to your emotional life is your personal, subjective truth. It literally doesn't matter what the objective facts are. Your body, your mind, your whole system is always going to respond to the truth as you see it. Okay, and this example just makes it crystal clear. Imagine you see a car accident. You are convinced the car was red. You swear on it. But later, someone shows you a video and hey, the car was definitely blue. The objective fact is blue. But here's the thing. If you hadn't seen that video, you would go to sleep that night and your brain would be processing a red car. Your whole system, your emotions, everything operates on the reality that the car was red. Because for you, in your universe, it was. So what does all this mean? It's huge. It means because all of our personal truths are unique, we're not actually all living in the same reality. Dr. Lukens says we each live in our own personal multiverse, which is built from all the unique meanings we assign to our experiences. And that right there is why you and a friend can go through the exact same thing and come out with two totally different stories about what happened. So if we're all zooming around in these personal multiverses, what's the engine? What's the fundamental force that's actually moving us through our own reality? Well, Dr. Lukens has a name for that too. He calls it emotioning. Now, it's really important to get this. This isn't just a new word for feelings, like being happy or sad. Emotioning is the deep, fundamental process of making meaning. It's like the physics of your inner world. It's what dictates what you even notice, what grabs your attention. It's the engine that literally generates your feelings and creates the motivation that pulls you toward one thing and pushes you away from another. So how does this engine actually run? It turns out it follows this really simple, predictable cycle. He calls it the action completion cycle. So step 1, something becomes meaningful. Think about it. A sofa is just a piece of furniture, right? Until you're totally exhausted. Then it suddenly means rest. Step 2, that meaning creates a drive, an emotion. You feel this longing to just sit down. Step 3, that drive makes you take an action. You literally walk over to the sofa. And finally, step 4, completion. You sit down and poof, the longing is gone. It's resolved. It's kind of like looking for your keys. The moment you find them, you stop looking. The drive is complete. Let's take another one. Imagine there's a snake in the room. Instantly, that snake means threat. That meaning creates the emotion of fear. And that fear, it drives an action. You get out of there fast. And the fear only goes away, it's only resolved when that action is complete, when you're somewhere safe. It works for everything, even curiosity. Right now, if I told you I was thinking of a number between 1 and 5, you'd feel a little spark of, I wonder what it is. That's a drive. And that drive for the answer hangs around until I tell you the number. The second you know the answer, the curiosity just vanishes. The cycle is complete. And yeah, this even works for the really big, messy emotions like anger. Think about it. Anger often pops up when we feel threatened. But we can't just run away. The drive that comes with anger is the drive to fight, to neutralize whatever is threatening us. So that feeling of anger, it's really just a signal telling you that a specific action is needed to get your power or your safety back. And this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. Our feelings aren't the enemy. They're not random, annoying problems we have to suppress or control. They are vital, crucial signals. They're like a compass, and the needle is pointing directly at the real problem. The fear isn't the problem. The snake is. The emotion is just the messenger, telling you exactly what action your system needs to take to get back to a state of resolution. Okay, so this whole framework does an amazing job of explaining our own internal world, but it also brings up a really big question, right? If we're all living in our own personal multiverses with our own unique physics, then how in the world do we ever truly connect with each other? How do we build a bridge from my reality into yours? Well, Dr. Lukens has an answer for that. He calls it Committed Benevolent Interest, or CBI for short. And what is CBI? At its heart, it's genuine love. But here's the critical part. It's not a feeling. It's an action. It is something you actively do, purely for the benefit of someone else, or even for yourself, with zero expectation of getting anything back in return. That is how you actually build the bridge. And making this distinction is absolutely crucial. See, CBI, or real love, is selfless. It's about giving. But possessiveness, or what we often mistake for love, is totally self-serving. It's all about, what can I get out of this? One builds a real bridge between two separate worlds because it respects that the other person's reality is real. The other, it just tries to conquer their world and pull it into yours. Okay, so let's zoom out and put all the pieces together. What does this new blueprint for who you are actually look like? What are the biggest, most important takeaways from this whole physics of emotioning idea? All right, here are these 6 big picture themes. Number 1, your personal truth is king. It's the only reality your system actually responds to. Number 2, meaning is the engine that drives you. 3, your emotions are just signals for action. Think of them as a compass, not a character flaw. 4, taking action is what leads to completion and resolution. 5, we're each living in our own personal multiverse. And finally, number 6, true connection. That CBI we talked about is how we build bridges between those worlds. And if we boil it down even more, here are the 4 ideas that are just the most impactful. First, that action completion cycle, that's a real practical map for healing old wounds and resolving unfinished business. Second, the whole idea of rational supremacy is a broken model that just creates conflict inside of us. Third, and this is a big one, your personal emotional truth, not some objective fact, is what's really steering the ship. And fourth, practicing that committed benevolent interest, or CBI, is the absolute key to real self-worth and connecting with other people. So, I'll just leave you with this one last thought to chew on. We spend so much energy, so much of our lives, fighting ourselves, trying to force who we are into this neat little story of who we think we should be. But what if? What if we just dropped the rope in that tug of war? What if we stopped trying to control the story and just listened? What if we simply lived from the emotional truth of who we already are? What do you think would change for you then?